My name is Sergio Mannino. I'm an Italian architect. I live in New York. I've been in New York for almost 25 years. And I work as an architect, interior designer, and product or furniture design. I'm an Italian architect. I studied architecture in Florence, even if I grew up in Sicily. And when I finished architecture, I decided to move to New York for 1 year to have an experience somewhere else before opening my own studio in Florence. The idea was to go to New York for a year, then go to Tokyo for a year, and then come back to Florence. So that's what I did, and after 23 years, I'm still in New York. I never made it to Tokyo. Actually went several times, but I never moved to Tokyo. And I think New York now is it's my home. We work with clients really from all over the world, but mainly since I started my work in fashion and doing retail projects with Vince Camuto, who I met really when I opened my studio in 2008. At the time, Vince was producing 50 million pairs of shoes a year and had several brands. So he invited me to design their stores. I did Jessica Simpson stores in Asia. I did BCBG, Max Azria, the Vince Camuto brand, and many other, Kenzie Girl, for instance, in New York or in the United States. And from there, I moved from shoes and fashion to pharmaceutical. We did several pharmaceutical brands, but also we worked for many years for fashion brands, Italian fashion brands like Prada or Bottega Veneta. Now we're working for Balmain. And so we really do many different things. I call my studio architecture branding because it's really an architectural approach to branding, meaning that we try to build a space that reflects what the brand is about, so that when you enter the space, you know immediately the values and what the brand is trying, the story behind it, and what the branding is trying to tell people. When I was 15, my parents sent me and my sister to England to study English. We didn't really study much. We had more fun than anything else. But I remember I met a bunch of Japanese kids and hung out with them a lot. And they were fascinated by our names. And they were always trying to sort of like translate or tell us what our names meant in Japanese. And at one point, someone's name translated was a dewdrop holds the door open. So many years have passed since that episode, but that sentence stuck in my head. And when we, in the studio, when we created this little book, I thought like, okay, that maybe that sentence is explains exactly what we are trying to do. So for me, that means that a dewdrop, which is the smallest thing you can imagine, has an incredible beauty into it, but it also has the power to change things. It's the small things that have the power to make some change. But at the end of the day, it is beauty, because a dewdrop is a beautiful thing. So it is beauty that can actually make the change. So that is the starting point of all the projects that you find here. Now, in this specific book, it's only our rugs, but we also design lighting, we design furniture. We do many things where we don't actually have a client, because we are the client. And so they're produced by the studio. They're not necessarily made, because we are not makers, except for a few ceramics pieces or a few things that we actually make ourselves. But in general, we are designer in the classical Italian sense, where we design and then we find the right producer for the specific things that we design. But not having clients means that we are free to make the decisions that we want. And that is a very important aspect of the studio work, because at that point, we're free to express ourselves, and there's always ideas that float around the studio, and there are always things that we wanted to make, but they often don't make it into the final projects, and then this idea becomes something else. So that's why we make these things. We design these objects, we design the furniture or the rugs. The first project in this book is the non-flying carpet. Years ago, a man came from Nepal to my studio and introduced himself and asked me if I wanted to design rugs, and he would make them for us in Nepal. Now, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to sell Persian rugs, and I remember me and my sister or my cousins helping her showing them to the clients. So I have a very special connection with rugs and handmade rugs. I was always fascinated by the intricacy of the patterns, which I had no idea what they meant, but I was creating my own stories in my mind and so on. And so when Sonam, this man, came to the studio offering me to make the rugs, I immediately accepted the challenge, and I said yes right away, thinking that my grandmother would be proud of me. And so we designed the first rug, which is the non-flying carpet, and it's made as a puzzle of different pieces intersecting together. At that time, I had just written an article on the work of Gordon Matta Clark, and some of the drawings here are inspired by his projects. At one point, he was buying pieces of land in New York that were so small and so odd that could not have a real use. And he wanted to make a project with them, but he died too early for that to happen. So I thought, like, oh, maybe these small, weird pieces of land then can become something else. And that's the project. That's how I can continue, sort of like Matta Clark's legacy and put my own in it. And so that's how it started. So all these components, all these corners in the rug are these small pieces of land in the city, and there are gardens growing or water or something else. And that's the origin of these drawings. Secret Garden is a collection that we presented at 3 days of design last year and at Edit Napoli. The idea is, in Italy there's this Secret Gardens is one of those like sacred spaces where there is a garden outside of the craziness of the city, and it's maybe even in the city centers or behind walls. There's something magical in these gardens. But for me, the Secret Garden is a place where reality jumps somewhere else, where things don't happen or are not there in the most canonical way, but you're sort of like an Alice in Wonderland kind of world. So it's your own world, and things don't respond to the normal physics, and colors are not the same as our real world. So the Secret Garden is a place for your dreams, for your expectations, for your thoughts, for anything. We design one, which is the one that names the series, which is the actual wall with the garden with the leaves on top, and then we made two others that are supposed to be inside these gardens. One with like wood planks that are pink or odd colors, and another with water. Definitely living in New York. New York is a melting pot of different cultures, and I think that this being exposed to so many different things every day all at once, it's sort of inspiration for everyone. But I also bring back my heritage of the Italian design approach. When I studied with the radical design masters, Remo Buti, Sozzas. So I'm heavily influenced by this group of designers that were pretty amazing from the 60s onward. But overall, I think probably art is one of my main sources of inspiration. I think artists are always a step ahead of everyone else, so that's what I look at all the time. And at the end of the day, what we are doing in design is we're trying to reflect what the society is about today. Design is about interpreting how society moves, and design really reflects should reflect that attitude. So every interior, every project, every item we design, every product we design, I think it's a reflection of that. You're designing the world or the society you would like to live in, and your products should reflect that. There is a definition of design that I heard for the first time when I moved to New York, and that is design is problem solving. And for my entire time working in Italy or studying in Italy, I never heard that definition once. Design in Italy is not problem solving, or at least it's no more problem solving than any other profession. I believe every single profession solves a problem. Maybe the artists we were talking about today arguably don't solve a problem, but even that I'm not 100% sure. But any profession solves a problem. The driver solves a problem. The chef that cooks something solves a problem. I cannot think of any profession that does not do that. So why are we so obsessed with design being problem solving? And I think the reason is simple, because if you say that design is problem solving, then the problem ends when you have resolved the problem. So in a way is the last leg of the modernism, where with technology or with rationality you fix the world. But in Italy I don't think people believe that, at least I don't. I think design starts when you have solved the problem, then the magic begins.